Hello again guys, and welcome to another unboxing review here at Z.M.S.C Model Works. I'm Zach, and today's in-box review is going to be looking at Alpha Model's Ferrari F8 Tributo. So this is the hardtop coupe variant of the F8. We had a look at the F8 Spider, and this kit is the obviously the hardtop coupe version. So as always, we have a nice sturdy cardboard box here. Our lovely box art, simple sticker that we're going to cut open because I haven't opened this one yet, just so that we know it's genuine. So opening the box here, we've got bubble wrap protecting all of the parts. I'm just going to put this off to the side, and I'll put this here so we can just go ahead and start taking everything out. So we've got our instructions, simple, easy to read. So we've got the basic layout of all the resin parts. We've got clear parts down here, some other stamping dies here. As you know, on the F8 Spider, there's some photo etch detail that has some complex curvature to it. Now, instead of using a ball and pin vise and a couple other, specific tools to metal forming, we have stamping dies. So basically just putting the part in the die, giving it a couple of love taps, and it should come out as intended in the shape that we need it. So we've got all of our photo etch here, obviously our nice display case plate, and a couple other seatbelt harnesses, grills, trim. These are mainly all grill pieces here, and then our separate rotors and calipers, which I think this has a major advantage over a lot of other kits, simply because you can do the rotors separately from the calipers and get some wear and tear on them to make them look really, really nice. And then we've got our clear acetate parts here, and for the windows and front windshield, and then our rear engine cover. So flipping over to the back of that first sheet gives us kind of the general layout of how we're going to start things, starting with the dashboard, then moving on to the interior, then moving on to all the ancillaries for the interior and the engine bay, then moving on to exterior portions of the model, and then moving over to, again, the front of the model, putting on the grills, headlights, and then finally attaching the chassis plate to the actual body and finishing off with some decals. So these are, again, curbside models. This might not be, this is kind of like a portion, it's like halfway between a full kit and a rolling, a curbside model, because the engine's kind of affixed there and you can kind of see it in the display, but there's not a whole lot going on in the chassis. So we have our instructions, and we have our many bags of parts that we will go over shortly. So just looking through, this is all, so this is all of our resin detail. So we've got our body here nicely wrapped in bubble wrap. Here I've got some engine details, some exterior grills, interior parts, stuff like that. This one we've got, again, more engine detail, more exterior parts, some of the hubs and interior parts as well. This one we've got our massive brakes and some interior bits to go along with it. Some major exterior parts, so we've got the seats, the rear diffuser, the engine cover, and the front dash. Our lovely printed 3D wheels with real rubber tire added to it. Our stamping dies and exhaust tips, and then we've got quite some fragile parts in an open bag. I'm gonna have to talk to Michael about this, but yeah, we've got our clear parts and our windshield wipers in one solid piece of resin, and not in photo etch, which I kind of prefer to have that as a one piece rather than trying to build it from photo etch. There we go. So I'll leave those ones in the bags, and we'll just take out the body first, and then we'll have a look at the interior bits in a little bit greater detail. So unboxing ASMR. So we've got our first bag, and then our second bag. So we've got our chassis plate here, which, you know, it's a flat bottom, so it's not much detail to put into there, but quite a bit of nice fine resin detail on the bottom there. And then we should have, we pop this out gently. Is our interior tub here, so this will be the basis for the main cockpit and our engine bay, as well as all the mounting points for everything else. Not much behind the seats, you know, some fairly nice upholstery detail in there, but most of it's going to be hidden, but that's okay. And then we've got our main body here. So there's multiple parts that are kind of added on later that need to be painted the same color as the body, just facilitates for a greater level of detail, especially with those specific lights in the F8. Some very nice detail going on in there with some of the grills and vents. You know, nice solid sturdy resin, fine detail on the panel lines. I don't know how well we can get this to show, but some very nice fine crisp detail on those panel lines. And then we've got the buckets there, parts of the splitter, and some vents in there as well. And then the nice thing about the Alpha model kits is they actually replicate all that interior framing detail on the pillars, which is nice because if you do have those kind of up shots where you're kind of looking up into it rather than being a bare plastic and, you know, that windshield frame in there, it's nice and clean, and you can do a lot with it. A little bit of flashing from the pour spouts. So when you're doing like a resin casting of something, you typically have the vent holes to facilitate resin going into all the necessary areas of that mold, called pour blocks. And that's where we can see here, these have been kind of trimmed off, not too close to the body where it's actually removing material that we want to add back, but enough that we can kind of sand it down smooth and get it to a nice fine finish. And in inconspicuous spots too. It's not like it's right on the side of the bumper or right in some area where it's difficult to get to. I see 4 right in areas where they're going to be covered up eventually in the end. So yeah. So we'll have a look at some of the smaller parts here, just in a little bit of minor detail. Come on out. So we can see here the rear engine bay. Very nice fine detail on the vents there. And then again, we got our pour block here, and that's in an inconspicuous spot that can be easily sanded down to match. And then we got a portion of the interior here on that side as well. And then for our dashboard here, as you can see, some really fine detail work going on with that resin and how thin it gets. It's just a testament to Alpha Model's molding process. It's by far one of the best in the industry, I think. So yeah, so we got some nice detail there, and then some texture. I don't know if you can see it very well, but there's a slight texture difference between this kind of area here, the dash and this here, so we can differentiate that with a different finish of paint and color. Okay, and then we've got our one-piece seats here, as you can see. Some nice fine detail in there that we can differentiate some of the Ferrari two-tone interior pieces, and possibly some carbon detail here on the back with regards to some of the seat belts too. It's very, very nicely done. And then we've got our rear diffuser here. So we've got some nice fine thin resin work for the veins on the rear diffuser here. Insets for the lights and our exhaust tips as well. So we'll go ahead and move on to our photo etch detail now. Okay, and here is some of the decals and clear sheets. We've got our kind of bag here with 4 little screws that attaches the chassis plate to the interior tub to the body. We've got our one-piece already painted rear engine cover, which saves a whole whack of time. And then we've got a kind of one bag for everything detail. So get all this photo etch out of here, and our clear acetate. Anything in the back? No, and our decal sheet as well. So I'll go ahead and have a look at the decals first. So nice protective film over top of this. I'll just keep that clean. And we've got some very nice carbon detail going on there. Some nice thin decals. I believe these are printed in Italy by Cartograph. We've got our paddles there that are carbon. All the other vent pieces, Ferrari logos, the works, all of our dash detail, so on and so forth. So all very, very nice, very thin, high quality decals, which it kind of makes it. If you have a good kit, but then the decals are shit, if they're not high resolution and they're just all blurred out because they've just been blown down, so like shrank from a blown up photo, it's yeah, it's not a good time. Doesn't look great. Okay, and again we have our other windshield slash window sheets here, again already pre-painted with the trim. And it's got 2 kind of plastic covers on top of these, so you've got to kind of slowly trim around the edge of those pieces, but it has 2 pieces of protective film on either side that helps mitigate the getting any scratches or damage on it before you actually use it. And going on to the brakes here. Nice drilled rotors front and back, and then some of the hub detail there. And we've got a bigger sheet with all of our kind of grill pieces that we're going to stamp out, a couple of interior bits, and then the floor mats, which are nice. Moving on to some of the smaller pieces, we've got some of the metal or the Ferrari logos there, and some seatbelt detail as well. So you can kind of see some of the prancing horse ones and some other finer detail in there in these smaller guys. And I've got some strapping detail here, as well as the rear view mirror. I have some of the metal foil transfers in the white chrome. Some metal seat belts, which I've already talked to Michael, the owner, to Hobby Design and suggested that he move back to the cloth ones. These are a bit of a pain in the ass to use and to form and paint afterwards, so I much prefer the fabric ones with the metal buckles. And then we've got some more grills here, some exterior bits, and parts for the brakes as well, so the caliper faces. And then finally we've got our nice thick and sturdy kind of display case badging. So all in all, great kit. It's got all the parts you need for it to get the maximum amount of detail you possibly can. That would go really well. Maybe we'll do the two side by side with the Spider and the Tributo, but all in all, a great looking kit, lots of detail and fairly easy to build. So hope you enjoyed watching this one, guys, and we'll see you in the next one.